you able to see?
Yes, Niranjan.
Okay, fine. I will launch my JDeveloper here. Now, Spring Framework. Now, if you see, we have to identify what actually problem is there in existing architecture that we have already built. Okay, and then probably we can go and we can talk about why do we need an extra framework and where actually that framework can be used. Right. Now, what I'll do in order to elaborate on this, I will just write some piece of code here, and probably that code will help you to understand why do we need Spring Framework. Okay, so I'm just writing some piece of code. You see, a simple Java project. I'll write here, you say component. Okay, next, click on finish, and in this I'll just go new and I'll take a class here, right? So let me name this class as, I will go and write a class dot test, and I'll name this class as dependency. Now, what do we mean by dependency? Dependency means that some external code is dependent on this particular dependency. For example, data source. Now, when I say data source and when I say customer DAO, the customer DAO is dependent on what data source to get connected to database, right? So I'm using a generic term here called as dependency. Okay, I'll click on finish. Now here what I'm doing, I'm taking a method public string do work, opening and closing, and just writing this out, do work call, and this will return some string like task completed. It's a simple method, hello world kind of program. Now I'll have dependent. Dependent is someone who is dependent on a dependency. Okay, so this is again a class. I'll go here and I'll take new class, and this is my dependent. I'll just go and click on finish. Here, this dependent now needs dependency in order to complete some of the tasks. Right? Means he is dependent on dependency. I'll just go here public void do task. There I'm using do work, here I'm using do task. And in this, I'll just write this out. Task started. And somewhere here, I'm making call to dependency dot do work. Okay. So now we have here dependent and dependency. Right. Now I'm going and I'm writing client code who is going to use this dependent. New class. I'll take here public. Let me name the class test. Take public static void main. Click on finish. Now here what I'll do, I'll create I'll just go and create an instance of dependent. dependent D equal to new dependent, and then I'll make call to D dot do task. So tell me what will be the output if I run it. If I run it, what will be the output? We have a dependency, we have dependent, or I'm making call to dependent do task. Yeah, just guess and let me know what will be output of this code. You want to see dependent class?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me know what will be output of.
Yeah, task started.
Task started. Are you sure?
Yes.
Think again.
Do task.
Let me run it and show it to you. And then you tell me what is the reason. Null pointer exception. What is the reason?
Exception.
Yes, it's null pointer exception. No? What do we mean by null pointer exception? Some object which is required is not getting instantiated, right? If you see here,
Yes.
dependent is there.
Do work is not.
What about yes. Why? Because we have not instantiated this, right? Right? It's not instantiated here. Okay? And whenever you will make call to method of a particular class which is not instantiated, it will throw exception, right? Null pointer exception. That's why it is happening. Is that clear?
Okay.
Fine. So if you see, what we need to do here is we need to take care of dependencies, right? Before they are used independent, you have to ensure that you are creating instance, right? So one place where you can create instance is this. You can do this, right? You are creating an instance of dependency. Now it will have memory, and when we make call to the method, it will work out. There is no problem. Okay? I'll go and I'll run it. It's working now, right?
Yes.
Fine. So overall objective here is how to manage dependency in dependence. This approach which we have followed is called as hard-coded dependency management. Okay? Is that right? This is hard-coded dependency management. Okay, because you are taking care of going and instantiating the object. Okay. Now imagine a situation or a scenario where you have various clients who wants to use this dependency. Okay, and what you are doing is you are going and changing the construction policy here. You say now you are taking constructor with an argument. Okay, I'll just go here and take the constructor, and this time this constructor takes an argument. So the minute I change construction policy, what happens? What happens? All dependents will have to be changed, right? Wherever you have hard coded, everywhere it has to be changed. Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
So when I change the construction policy, everywhere code needs to be changed. And assume that you are using it at hundreds of places, right? So all places you have to go and you have to change the way dependency object is being managed. Okay? How to overcome it? In order to overcome it, Gang of 4 gave a pattern. That pattern is called as factory pattern. Right? Basic objective of factory pattern is to decouple construction policy from the parent class. Okay? So see how I will tune or change the same class here. Now what I am doing, I am going to dependency, and in dependency I am writing a message public, right, which returns dependency which returns dependency here. I'll write here get or create dependency, right? And here what I'll do, I'll write return new dependency. As of now, I'll use this. Is that clear? So I have written what? I have written a factory method, right? And I'll make this method as static so that I don't need an instance to make call to create dependency. Now instead of using direct construction here in dependent, what I can do? I can go and write here dependency. All these are core Java pattern dot create dependency, right? Fine. So I'm not using now constructor directly. So tomorrow, if there is change in construction policy, assume that again one different constructor came up. I'll go and I'll take up the constructor. This is what is the constructor, default constructor, right? And now I want to go ahead and use constructor without any argument, right? So what I need to do? I need to just go and change here. I need not bother about changing code in dependency. So what you have done, you have centralized the change management of dependency in one class, right, by using factory method. Niharika, is that clear?
No.
Okay, see. I wrote here dependency, okay. Now, I have two constructors of this. One constructor is without argument, second constructor is with an argument, right. Now, what I did was, I made these constructors public, private. Constructors can be private, okay. I made these constructors private. Now, if I made this constructor private, it cannot be directly used here, right? I cannot go and directly write a dependency. I cannot do that, right? Now, why I made construction private? To hide construction policy so that other classes cannot directly go and invoke constructor, right?
Okay.
Okay, so how actually objects will be created of dependence? For that, what I did in this class, I wrote one method called create dependency. And now this create dependency will return dependency object. Now wherever I need, whichever client, dependent 1, 2, 3, 4, whoever needs object of dependency, what they will do? Instead of directly instantiating, they will just go and make call to what?
Create dependency.
Create dependency. Now tomorrow if there is change in construction policy, now assume that construction policy change and now you have here constructor with 3 arguments.
We need to change it, return new dependency.
Right. So what happens? There is no error in dependent if you see. Is there any error in dependent?
No.
No. Yeah.
No, right? It means all dependents will not have any error. That change you have to commit only at one place. So if I pass here some integers,
3 integers.
it's fine.
Yeah.
So you see, you are not going and changing each and every dependent. You are just changing it at one place. This is what is benefit of factory pattern. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So if I ask you now which code is more manageable, first one which is hard coded dependency management or factory pattern?
Factory pattern.
Factory.
Okay, fine. This was the second approach. Then came third one, which is called as Hollywood principle. Hollywood principle says that don't call us, we'll call you. Okay. Right. This principle was that why do you need to go and create dependency? Why do you need to go and create dependency? Why can't someone be there who takes responsibility of going and creating all dependencies and wiring it independent and then providing you a ready dependent object to be used? Okay, means you need not bother about dependency and dependent at all. Okay, is that clear?
Yep.
Yes, and this principle is what is called as IOC or DI, which stands for inversion of control or dependency injection, that is DI. Okay, both terms are similar. It means it is one of the ways of managing dependency. Okay, it's correct. Now let's see how it does it. Right, if you are planning to go with IOC, there are various frameworks which suggest that we are going to provide you a container, right, called as IOC container. You have to just go and specify the metadata of your dependent and dependencies, and then automatically once the system will start, your container will keep them ready. You have to just go and ask, give me an instance of dependent. You need not bother about how dependencies will be managed. All that will be taken care by that container called as IOC container. Okay, like when we talk about EJB, we just go and create EJB and we do what? We deploy it in EJB container. Now from there onwards, lifecycle management is done by whom? By your EJB container. Same here. We are going to have dependents and dependencies identified. We are going to delegate responsibility of managing those objects which contains dependencies to the IOC container instead of we going and managing it. Okay, so what is required for this? IOC container, like you have web container, you have EJB container. Similarly, now you have what? IOC container. Okay, is that clear?
Yes.
Now, in order to get web container and EJB container, you have installed JBoss or Tomcat or WAP or WebLogic. Similarly, in market, you will have various IOC container providers. Some of them are Pico. One is Pico container. Then second one is Spring container. Right? Then you have Google Juice. Right? So these are various frameworks which are there. Now you will find in JEE06 also features of IOC container. Okay, that is inversion of control. So all these frameworks are there which provides you capability of going and managing dependency. Is that clear?
Okay.
Okay, fine. Now how to go and start with IOC container? What does IOC container mean? We are selecting Spring. The steps are very simple. Get Spring jars. Okay. So we can also call it as implementation jar. Second step is identify dependent and dependencies. Right? Identify dependent and dependencies that you don't want to manage. You want to delegate it to IOC container. Okay? Right? Because see, all objects dependent cannot be managed by IOC container. For example, customer. Now, customer is something which need to be, the value need to be supplied from an environment, right? From outside. So these objects are not right candidate to be managed by IOC container. Right? Configurable objects like data source, EMS connection pool, right? These are the objects or employee DAO, right? These are the objects which can be managed by IOC container. So basically configurable objects, right? Which can sit in service layer and can provide you certain services, right? These are the right candidates to be placed in IOC container. Is that clear?
Yes.
Fine. Right. So these two steps are there. Now third step is write metadata. I have asked you to write metadata in Hibernate also and configuration metadata, right? Similarly here also you will be writing metadata, right? Which can be written using XML or can be written using annotations. For example, you have seen that You have written mapping using annotations as well as using XML, right? In JPA we have used annotations, and in Hibernate we have used .html. Same is the case here. Spring provides you capability of writing the way you want dependencies to be managed by IoT container. A metadata for him, some set of instructions for him, right? Either by using XML or by using annotations. Okay, right?
Yes.
Fine. Then comes last. After your IoT container is set up and it is running, fourth important thing is use client API. Use client API to ask your IoT container, right? To ask IoT container what? Configured object. It's there, right? Same thing like you have used session factory and all. Here also you need to have some API that helps you to go and ask, give me object which is configured, like give me data source, configured data source object, and you are not bothered about managing dependency. IoT container will go read the metadata, create an instance of data source, and give you the reference of that object. Okay, is that clear? So typically these are the steps that you will be following in order to start working with Spring. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Fine. So I'll go back to my J developer because we need to show you how to get it, right? And then what I'm doing here, file, new, let's go to other, and let me see, do I have Spring project? I don't have, right? If I don't have, it means I have to go and I have to add the plugin. So I just go here, install new software. Okay. Instead of this, I can go to market. Now, if you see in this, marketplace is not there, right?
Yeah.
So I need to go and use update site, right? So there are two ways. One is use update site, and second one is by going and using Eclipse Marketplace. So see what I'm doing. I'm going to Google and I'm writing here Spring IDE update site. Okay, for Kepler. I'll go here and it shows us what is the update site. See this one. So in case if you are using Helios and all, you can go and you can use update site. I'll write here this. It takes some time, but let me complete this. Spring Control V. If you have Kepler and all, you will get marketplace, and from there actually you can go. I'll add here. Now you see I got the same thing, right? I'll select the core, right? And select this also. Sometimes what happens if we are using different IP, they may have clash. So we have to be careful in case if some are there. And okay, now I'll take here Spring ID Core Developer. That's it. I think that's enough. AOP extension getting recorded, so you can just go and click on next. It takes some time. I click on next. Click on next. Accept. Click on finish. And this takes downloads the required plugins. So theme code, I feel that you will not be able to understand. So let me install it and show you code equally. Once you get the code, then from there on, you understood the concept of dependency and dependent, right? You can take any example, like you have customer, you have data source, right? So what is dependency and what is dependent? There are various scenarios, right? Various examples that you might have come across where you need data source, and data source sometimes is from Oracle database, sometimes it has to be created for some other database, right? So every time you have to go and change your code. Instead of changing there, why can't we externalize it, right? And give responsibility to someone so that whenever there is change, business logic developers need not worry about it. They are able to actually go and implement it. Okay. And I feel that you might have heard about certain best object-oriented principles like code by interfaces. Have you heard about it? These are good object-oriented principles, right? List call principle and then code by interface, prefers composition over inheritance. These are some of the best object-oriented principles that actually you have to keep in mind when you go and develop code. The Sprint follows all those best principles. Apart from that, you might have heard about design pattern, right? Factory pattern we have seen. Similarly, you have command pattern. You have various patterns which are there, behavioral, structural, right? Spring framework takes responsibility of internally creating classes for you, and it follows all best principles and best patterns which can be applied in those scenarios. Okay,
Okay.
fine. So these frameworks are now going to bind you because it is becoming very difficult to expect from a particular profile that you should be very good in design patterns, you should be equally good in coding. It's becoming difficult. People who are good in design patterns probably they may not know various technologies, right? So this responsibility now is being taken by frameworks themselves. They say that we need developers who can write business code, who can understand the business, and who can translate business into some kind of service. From there onwards, we will take care of ensuring that all best principles are being followed at runtime when objects are getting created. Okay. So when you go with Struts, you'll find there also that all that is Pojo. Hibernate we have seen. We are able to manage persistence by declaring Pojo and making rest of the things declarative in nature through annotations and XML files. Right? Same is the case with now dependency management also. We can go and we can write metadata where we can specify what are the values of the dependency and how actually dependency is going to be managed. Okay. So things are becoming simple, but you have to follow certain predicate, certain rules in order to actually go and write them. in Hibernate and Spring. Objective of Hibernate is persistence management, right? And objective of Spring is to provide you capability of IOC container, right? So they are entirely different, right? You cannot compare it. We are not going to use Spring framework as a replacement to Hibernate. Okay, Hibernate is meant for persistence layer. Spring is meant for service layer, right? Okay, so their objective itself is different. Spring cannot replace Hibernate. You can use both together in order to get benefit of Hibernate, as well as you can go and use benefit of Spring in order to ensure that your code that you are writing, client code that you are writing using Hibernate, which is dependent on session factor, that can be made independent by using what? Spring framework, right? Is that clear? So objective of Spring framework is not to replace any existing framework. Objective of Spring framework is to complement other frameworks and provide a simplified way of coding, right? Ensuring that all best principles are followed, right? And is that clear now? You will see once I will write code. Okay, so please remove certain misconceptions that Spring framework replaces J2EE or JEE, not at all. Okay, right? Because Spring does not have capabilities of web container, EJB container. It uses those containers, right? So both of them, both technologies are going to complement each other, right? Your Spring provides IOC capabilities and JEE provides containers with low-level service management capabilities, right? Okay, this is what is basic. Now I think it is installed. Plugin is installed. I'll go and click on OK. Now, first feature of Spring framework is IOC. That is what we are going to see now. Okay. Now, if you have added it properly, if your Spring is added properly, it will provide you options. Like if it is asking you, I'll just go File, New, and if you see, I'll go to Others, and now I'll have an option here called as Spring. I just clicked on Spring project. Tools here, JBoss Developer Studio. What we can do, we can move to Niharika's system and we'll see how to create a Spring project there. Okay, I'll just go here, make you presenter.
Okay, I'm sharing my desktop. So do I need to do something here, Spring ID, or just a new Java project? Niranjan?
Thanks.